Have you ever said or done something in the heat of the moment that you later regretted? That one sharp word, that quick reaction, that sudden decision that left you wishing you had just paused for a second longer. We all have. And it's in those moments that we realize how powerful our reactions truly are. A single reaction can create peace or chaos. It can build bridges or burn them to ashes. The truth is, most people live their lives on autopilot, reacting instantly to whatever comes their way. But here's the secret. Real strength doesn't come from reacting, it comes from responding. Responding is different. Responding means you pause, you breathe, and you take control of yourself before you give your energy to the world. That pause is not weakness. That pause is power. Because in that space between what happens to you and what you choose to do next, you have the ability to decide the outcome. You hold the steering wheel of your life firmly in your own hands. Without it, you're being tossed around by emotions, impulses, and other people's actions. But with it, you are unshakable, unmovable, and unbreakable. Think about how much peace you lose when you react without thinking. An argument that never needed to happen. A relationship strained because of words that slipped out. An opportunity lost because you let fear or anger decide for you. Reaction is quick, but it's costly. It feels powerful in the moment, but it leaves behind guilt, regret, and a mess you have to clean up later. And deep down, you know this. You know that when you react, you hand your power over to the situation, to the other person, or even to your emotions. But when you respond, you take that power back. This is why training your mind to respond instead of react is one of the greatest investments you will ever make in yourself. It changes the way you handle pressure, the way you lead, the way you love, and the way you build your future. Imagine walking through life with the ability to face chaos and still remain calm. Imagine being able to stand in the middle of conflict and not be shaken. Imagine being the person who doesn't just survive storms, but commands them with strength and clarity. That's what happens when you learn to respond. And here's the reward: peace. The peace of knowing you are in control of yourself. The peace of walking away from situations with no regret. The peace of making choices that align with your values, not with temporary emotions. But it's more than peace. It's respect. People respect those who can stay calm when others are losing control. They trust those who can listen, pause, and answer with wisdom. And they admire those who can rise above chaos instead of getting dragged into it. Stay with me, because the journey you're about to take is the journey to reclaim your own mind, to build unshakable control over your emotions, to discover how to train yourself to respond, not react, in every moment that life throws at you. If you master this, you master yourself, and when you master yourself, there is nothing in this world you cannot overcome. So much of the stress you feel in life doesn't come from the events themselves, but from how you react to them. The truth is, most people aren't ruined by circumstances. They're ruined by their own uncontrolled responses to those circumstances. Think about it. An insult is just words. A setback is just a temporary challenge. A rejection is simply a redirection. Yet when you react with anger, fear, or frustration, you magnify the pain and make it far bigger than it ever needed to be. Reaction takes a small spark and turns it into a wildfire. Your mind is wired to react. It's an ancient survival mechanism. The moment you feel threatened, your brain fires signals that push you into fight, flight, or freeze. That's the amygdala at work, the primal part of your brain built to keep you alive. In the jungle, it made sense. React fast or get eaten. But in the modern world, those same reactions often sabotage you instead of protecting you. A raised voice from a colleague isn't a tiger. A critical comment on social media isn't a lion. But your brain treats it like a threat, and before you know it, you're snapping back, shutting down, or spiraling into anger. That reaction steals your peace and drains your energy. When you let reaction control your life, you live in chains. You find yourself apologizing for things you didn't mean, regretting choices you made in seconds, and fighting battles that never should have existed. You hand over your power to every circumstance, and every person who knows how to push your buttons, and deep down, you know it. You know the regret that comes after the outburst. You know the guilt that sits heavy after the decision made too quickly. You know how exhausting it is to feel like life is pulling you around, instead of you leading your life with intention. But here's the shift that changes everything. Reaction is automatic. Response is intentional. Reaction is survival. Response is mastery. When you choose to respond instead of react, you are no longer a slave to the old patterns of your brain. You step into the higher part of your mind, the part that thinks, evaluates, and chooses with clarity. That part doesn't get hijacked by fear or anger. That part asks, what outcome do I want? Who do I want to be in this moment? And that question changes everything. Think of the weight that lifts when you realize you don't have to be controlled by every trigger. You don't have to be defined by anger, fear, or impatience. You can rise above. You can create a space between what happens and what you do next, and in that space lies freedom. True freedom. Freedom from regret. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from being manipulated by other people's words or actions. That's the life you deserve, a life where you decide, not your impulses. This is why learning to calm the storm inside matters so much. Because if you can master your reactions, nothing outside of you can master you. You will walk with a new kind of power, quiet, steady, and unshakable. People will notice. They will see the difference in the way you carry yourself, in the way you handle pressure, in the way you don't get pulled into the chaos around you. And most importantly, you will feel it. You will feel the peace of knowing you are no longer at the mercy of your emotions. You are in command. And that command is the key to creating a life of strength, clarity, and unstoppable growth. The ability to stay calm when everything around you is shaking is one of the greatest forms of strength a human being can develop. Anyone can raise their voice. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can let emotions spill without control. But it takes discipline, courage, and true self-mastery to remain steady when the pressure rises. That is the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. People don't admire the one who explodes under stress. They admire the one who can face the storm with calm eyes and a clear voice. That calmness is not silence. It's power. It's the signal that you are in control, not your emotions, not your triggers, not the chaos around you. Responding instead of reacting transforms the way others see you. When you pause and choose your words carefully, people listen differently. When you move with intention rather than impulse, people begin to trust you. They know you won't break under pressure. They know you won't let anger cloud your judgment. That kind of trust is rare, and it is earned only by those who have mastered themselves. Respect doesn't come from force. Respect comes from restraint, from the quiet confidence of someone who doesn't need to prove their strength through reaction. It comes from the patience and wisdom of someone who responds with clarity. Think of the leaders you admire most, the ones whose presence brings stability instead of chaos. What sets them apart is not louder words or harsher reactions, but the ability to stand in conflict and still make choices that move everyone forward. Responding gives you that same power in your own life, whether in your family, your work, or your personal battles. The moment you stop reacting and start responding, you step into the role of a leader, not only for others but for yourself. You show yourself that you can be trusted. You show yourself that you are capable of choosing growth over impulse. This isn't just about how others see you, it's about how you see yourself. Every time you react, you reinforce the belief that you are controlled by emotions. Every time you respond, you reinforce the belief that you are in charge. Those beliefs add up. They shape your identity. And identity is powerful, because once you see yourself as someone who responds with strength and calm, you begin to live that way naturally. It becomes who you are. You don't just practice calmness, you embody it. You don't just fight for control, you become the kind of person who doesn't need to fight for it anymore. The reward is more than respect. The reward is freedom from the weight of regret. Think about how many nights have been ruined by replaying something you said in anger, something you did without thinking. Those heavy feelings eat away at your energy and steal your confidence. But when you respond instead of react, you don't carry that weight. You walk away knowing you stayed true to yourself. You sleep with peace because your actions matched your values. That peace is priceless, and it becomes the foundation for greater confidence and deeper strength. This is what makes responding a true superpower. It transforms your relationships, builds your credibility, and shapes your self-image. It creates a ripple effect, where your calmness inspires calmness in others. When you rise above reaction, you create a space where respect, trust, and clarity grow. And in that space, you become unshakable, no matter what life throws at you. Awareness is the first step toward this transformation. You cannot control what you don't notice. Most people go through life reacting on autopilot, blind to the patterns that are running their behavior. They don't see the triggers until it's too late. They don't realize they've been hijacked by emotion until the damage is already done. But the moment you bring awareness into your mind, everything changes. When you notice the rush of anger, the tightening in your chest, the urge to fire back, you have already begun to take control. Awareness interrupts the cycle. Awareness gives you the choice that reaction steals away. Think of your awareness as a spotlight. Wherever you shine it, that part of your mind slows down. It comes into focus. The chaos of automatic impulses loses its grip because you are observing it. You are no longer just inside the storm. You are watching the storm from a higher place. And from that higher place, you see options. You see that you don't have to send the message. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to let the wave crash over you. You can breathe. You can wait. You can choose. That is the birth of response. Psychology shows us that when we observe our thoughts and emotions, their power begins to weaken. Simply naming an emotion, like saying to yourself, "I feel frustrated," reduces its intensity. The brain shifts from pure reaction to reflection. You step out of the grip of the amygdala and activate the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain designed for clarity, logic, and decision-making. In that moment of awareness, your mind is no longer being dragged into the past or the future. It is anchored in the present, where true power exists. This is why practices like deep breathing and mindfulness are not luxuries. They are tools for survival in a world full of noise and pressure. A single breath taken with awareness can break the chain of reaction. A single pause to notice your thoughts can stop you from making a choice that would cost you days, months, or even years of regret. Awareness may feel simple, but it is the foundation of all mastery. Without it, you are driven by impulses. With it, you are guided by intention. And intention is everything. When you live with awareness, you begin to notice the small triggers before they grow into explosions. You catch the flicker of irritation before it becomes rage. You feel the spark of insecurity before it becomes self-sabotage. You recognize the shadow of fear before it turns into paralysis. You can't erase these emotions, but you can face them with clarity instead of letting them control you. You can respond to them as signals, not shackles. You can let them teach you without letting them rule you. Every time you choose awareness, you strengthen the muscle of self-mastery. Every time you pause and notice, you send a powerful message to yourself. I am in control. I am not my anger. I am not my fear. I am not my impulses. I am the one who chooses. That belief, reinforced over and over, becomes your new reality. You no longer identify with chaos. You identify with calm. You no longer see yourself as someone who breaks under pressure. You see yourself as someone who rises above it. This is the gift awareness gives you. The ability to step outside of the automatic and step into the intentional. The ability to see clearly and act deliberately. The ability to replace reaction with response, and in doing so, take command of your life. Emotions rise and fall like waves, powerful and unpredictable. To react is to be pulled under by the current, tossed around with no control. To respond is to learn how to ride those waves, to stay balanced even when the ocean around you is violent. The difference lies in emotional regulation, the skill of managing what you feel so that your feelings no longer manage you. Without this skill, every surge of anger, fear, or frustration becomes a storm that drives your actions. With it, those same emotions become signals you can read, understand, and redirect into strength. The human brain is wired to feel first and think later. That initial flood of emotion is primal, designed to keep you safe. But if you never learn to regulate it, you stay trapped in survival mode, always on edge, always reacting. Emotional regulation isn't about shutting down feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about facing them with awareness and guiding them with intention. When you acknowledge what you feel instead of being consumed by it, you transform the emotion from an enemy into a teacher. One of the most powerful techniques is emotional labeling. When you say, "I feel angry" instead of "I am angry," you separate yourself from the emotion. You remind yourself that feelings are experiences, not identities. This small shift rewires the brain, calming the storm and giving you space to choose. The emotion no longer defines you. It becomes something you can work with, not something that rules you. That space, that gap, is where power is found. Another way to regulate emotions is to slow them down through your body. The mind and body are inseparable. When you slow your breathing, you slow your heart rate. When you ground your body, your thoughts begin to settle. This is not weakness, it is strategy. You are using your biology to take back control from automatic reactions. Science proves that even a few deep, intentional breaths can move the brain from chaos into clarity. Imagine what becomes possible when you make this a daily practice, when you train your nervous system to stay steady under pressure. Every time you regulate an emotion instead of being hijacked by it, you strengthen your resilience. Resilience is not about avoiding pain. It is about feeling the full weight of life and still standing tall. Emotional regulation turns pain into wisdom, anger into assertiveness, fear into alertness. The very emotions that once made you reactive can become fuel for growth when you learn how to guide them. You stop drowning in the waves and start steering the ship. This is what separates those who crumble from those who rise. Everyone feels anger. Everyone feels fear. Everyone feels the sting of disappointment and the burn of frustration. But not everyone knows how to face those emotions without being consumed. When you master regulation, you become the kind of person who can stand in the fire without being burned. You face life head-on and remain unshaken, not because you don't feel, but because you know how to feel with strength. True freedom comes when emotions no longer dictate your actions. You still feel them, but they no longer own you. They no longer decide your words, your choices, or your future. That is when you step into real power. Because when your emotions are under your guidance, you can respond with clarity, with purpose, and with strength that nothing outside of you can break. When you learn to regulate your emotions, something remarkable begins to happen. People around you start to notice. They feel it in your presence. They see it in your actions. They recognize that you are not easily shaken, that you don't collapse under pressure or lash out when things go wrong. This creates a deep sense of respect, the kind that cannot be demanded but must be earned. People trust those who are steady. They admire those who can face the same challenges everyone else faces, yet choose calm over chaos, clarity over confusion, and wisdom over impulse. Respect is built in the pauses you take. It grows in the moments when you could have reacted harshly but instead responded with composure. It shows up in conversations where you listen fully instead of rushing to defend yourself. It strengthens when you control your tone, even while others lose control of theirs. This is not weakness. It is strength of the highest form. Because anyone can explode, but it takes true mastery to stay grounded. That mastery commands respect without you ever needing to demand it. Think of how different your relationships become when you operate from this place. Instead of arguments escalating into battles, your calmness disarms tension. Instead of creating distance through harsh reactions, you build connection through thoughtful responses. People begin to feel safe around you, because they know your words will not be reckless and your actions will not be unpredictable. Safety is the foundation of trust, and trust is the foundation of strong relationships, whether in your family, your friendships, or your career. In the workplace, the difference is even more profound. Those who react impulsively are seen as unreliable, difficult to work with, and easily manipulated by stress. But those who respond with clarity are seen as leaders, regardless of their title. They are the ones people turn to in moments of pressure, the ones others follow because their steadiness inspires confidence. Opportunities flow to those who can keep their emotions in check, because the world always needs people who can handle storms without collapsing. This respect is not just about how others see you, it's about how you see yourself. Every time you respond with strength, you reinforce a powerful identity within yourself. I am in control. I am calm. I am capable. That identity builds self-respect, and self-respect creates unshakable confidence. Confidence that does not come from arrogance or the need to prove yourself, but from knowing you can trust yourself, from knowing that no matter what happens, you will not betray your values by reacting recklessly. You will stand tall, steady, and true to who you are. When you live this way, respect follows naturally. People cannot help but admire those who embody calm strength. Your presence becomes a reminder to others of what is possible. You inspire without trying. You lead without forcing. You influence without demanding. And all of it begins with a simple yet powerful choice to respond instead of react. This choice changes everything. It shapes your relationships, strengthens your reputation, and builds a foundation of trust both in yourself and in others. The power of respect is not found in fear, dominance, or control. It is found in composure, in patience, and in the discipline to hold your ground when it would be easier to lose it. That is the kind of strength the world remembers, the kind that lasts long after the moment is past. Respect is powerful, but what happens when you don't control your reactions goes far deeper than the moment itself. Every time you react without thought, you plant seeds. Seeds of regret, seeds of guilt, seeds of consequences that grow over time into patterns that shape your entire life. A single reaction may seem small in the moment, but repeated often enough, it becomes the story you live. It becomes habits that define you, relationships that fracture, and opportunities that slip away because you couldn't hold back for even a second. Think about how quickly anger can destroy what took years to build. One harsh response can damage trust in a relationship. One impulsive decision can cost a career. One reckless reaction can turn a temporary setback into a permanent wound. These moments don't just vanish after they pass. They leave marks, scars that you carry, reminders of what happens when you let emotion lead instead of reason. And when the same reactions happen over and over, the scars deepen until you start to believe this is just who you are. But it's not who you are. It's who you've trained yourself to become through repetition. The brain learns patterns. Every time you react impulsively, you reinforce neural pathways that make that reaction more likely the next time. Your brain remembers the shortcut: feel, explode, regret. It wires itself for impulsivity, locking you into cycles that feel harder and harder to escape. This is why people say, "I can't help it, that's just the way I am." It isn't who they are, it's who they've allowed themselves to practice becoming. And just as the brain can be trained into impulsivity, it can also be trained into strength, into calmness, into mastery. But only if you decide to break the cycle. The consequences of living reactively don't just affect your mind, they affect your body. Stress hormones flood your system every time you let yourself be triggered without control. Your heart races, your blood pressure rises, your nervous system stays on edge. Living reactively keeps you in a constant state of tension, burning energy you could use for growth, creativity, and focus. Over time, this wears you down physically and mentally. It steals not only your peace, but your health. But the most painful consequence is the regret. Regret for words you can't take back. Regret for choices you can't undo. Regret for opportunities you missed because you let fear, anger, or pride decide for you. Regret has a heavy weight, and it lingers long after the moment has passed. The irony is that the reaction feels powerful in the moment, but the regret that follows is weakness stretched over days, weeks, and sometimes years. Reaction gives you seconds of false control but costs you endless hours of self-blame. If you continue to live in reaction, the long-term cost is a life that feels out of your hands. You become a prisoner to triggers, controlled by whatever emotion happens to surface. But if you choose to respond, you begin to write a new story, a story of intention, of growth, of control, that expands over time instead of shrinking. Each choice to respond builds on the last, creating new patterns, new strength, new freedom. The path you choose shapes everything. React, and you give away your future one moment at a time. Respond, and you claim it back piece by piece. The consequences are real, and they are lasting. But so is the reward if you decide to rise above. When you begin to respond instead of react, something profound happens. You experience freedom in its purest form. Freedom is not about escaping responsibilities or avoiding challenges. True freedom is knowing that nothing outside of you has the power to control your inner world. It is the realization that no matter what people say, no matter what situations unfold, your peace and your choices belong to you. That freedom is priceless because it cannot be taken away, unless you give it away through reaction. Every time you react, you hand over control of your life. You let someone else's words decide your mood. You let circumstances dictate your direction. You let fleeting emotions write the script of your future. But when you respond, you reclaim your authority. You stand firm in the truth that your mind is your own, and your destiny is shaped by your choices, not by the chaos around you. This is liberation, the kind that makes you unshakable, no matter how loud the world becomes. Imagine living in such a way that criticism doesn't break you. Imagine setbacks that don't paralyze you, failures that don't define you, negativity that doesn't poison you. That is what happens when you respond. You stop being a puppet pulled by strings of impulse and become the one holding the strings. You begin to live intentionally, on your terms, guided by clarity instead of clouded by reaction. That clarity makes you unstoppable because you are no longer distracted by battles that don't matter. You focus only on what moves you forward. This kind of freedom also gives you strength in moments where most people collapse. Where others explode in anger, you breathe and think. Where others shut down in fear, you stand and act. Where others chase approval, you walk in self-respect. You are no longer a prisoner to the noise of your emotions or the noise of the world. You move with a calmness that confuses negativity and a strength that disarms conflict. The deeper truth is that freedom is not found in controlling everything outside of you. That will never happen. Life will always bring storms, challenges, and people who test your patience. Freedom comes from controlling what happens inside of you, from building a mind so disciplined that no storm can steal your balance. The storm will rage, but inside you there is stillness. The world will test you, but inside you there is certainty. That stillness and certainty are what allow you to walk through fire without being consumed. And the more you practice this, the more you realize that nothing is truly stronger than a calm, disciplined mind. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be broken. It cannot be rushed into mistakes. It holds the key to peace, the key to resilience, and the key to real power. That is why responding instead of reacting is not just a skill. It is freedom in its highest form. You were not born to be controlled by emotions or enslaved by triggers. You were born with the capacity to choose, to decide, to rise above. Every pause, every breath, every deliberate response is you stepping deeper into that freedom. And once you taste it, you will never again want to live any other way. Freedom grows stronger when you equip yourself with tools that turn intention into action. Desire alone is not enough. You must have strategies that anchor your mind when emotions rise and distractions try to pull you back into old patterns. The mind is like a wild horse. It can be tamed, but only with consistent training, and the tools you choose become the reins that keep it steady, even in the most chaotic moments. One of the simplest yet most powerful tools is the pause. A pause creates space between impulse and action, giving your higher self time to step in. When you feel the rush of anger or fear, that pause is your shield. Count to 5, breathe deeply, let the intensity of the emotion pass through before you open your mouth or make a choice. In that short silence, you prevent the damage of reaction and create the opportunity for wisdom to emerge. What feels like hesitation to the reactive mind is actually strength in its purest form. Another tool is the breath. Breathing is more than survival. It is control. A slow, intentional breath tells your nervous system to calm down. It signals to your body that you are safe, that you don't need to fight or flee, that you are in control. This is not weakness. This is rewiring your biology to work for you instead of against you. Just 3 deep breaths can turn panic into clarity, anger into calm, and confusion into focus. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes until your very breath becomes a weapon against chaos. Journaling is another powerful method. Writing down your triggers, your thoughts, and your responses makes patterns visible. What you track, you can change. The act of putting thoughts on paper slows the storm in your head and brings clarity where confusion once lived. Over time, you begin to recognize your weak spots, the moments that often pull you into reaction, and with recognition comes power. You cannot change what you refuse to confront, but once you see it clearly, you can prepare for it, plan for it, and transform it. Delaying decisions is also a discipline worth mastering. Not everything needs an immediate answer. Many mistakes are born out of the illusion that you must respond instantly. The truth is, wisdom grows in patience. Giving yourself time allows the intensity of emotion to fade so that your response is guided by clarity, not adrenaline. Even saying, "I'll get back to you," creates the space you need to make choices that align with your values. That delay can save you from days, months, or years of regret. Each of these tools may seem small, but together they create a fortress around your mind. They turn response into a habit instead of a struggle. They prove to you that you are not powerless against emotion, that you have weapons to fight back against reaction and win. Every pause, every breath, every written word, every delayed decision is a victory. And victories repeated over time become transformation. With these tools, you no longer fear the triggers. You welcome them, because each one is a chance to practice, to strengthen, to grow. Every challenge becomes training. Every test becomes proof of your mastery. And the more you use these tools, the more unshakable you become, calm, steady, and always in control of yourself. Mastery over yourself is not a single achievement, but a discipline you live with daily. It is the art of choosing strength over weakness, clarity over chaos, and intention over impulse. Every decision you make is either reinforcing your old self or building the stronger self you are becoming. The small victories matter more than you realize, because they compound into a life that reflects power, not fragility. You may not always feel the change in the moment, but each time you resist a destructive urge, each time you silence the voice of doubt, you are reshaping the very wiring of your mind. Self-control is not about restriction, it is about liberation. When you free yourself from being enslaved by emotions, you are no longer tossed around by circumstances or the behavior of others. You step into a place of authority where nothing outside of you has the power to dictate who you are or how you live. That is true freedom. It is not loud. It does not scream for attention. It is quiet, steady, and unbreakable. The calmest person in the room is always the most powerful one, because they cannot be manipulated, provoked, or thrown off balance. That is the kind of strength you are cultivating. The real transformation begins when you start to notice the distance between who you used to be and who you are becoming. The old you might have snapped, in anger, retreated in fear, or spiraled in doubt. The new you recognizes those same triggers, but meets them with awareness instead of surrender. You see the surge of emotion, but instead of being consumed by it, you step back and let it pass. That moment of restraint is proof that you are evolving. It is evidence that your mind is no longer a battlefield, but a territory under your command. There will still be days when you stumble, when reaction slips through before response can take over. Do not mistake those moments as failure. They are reminders that growth is not about perfection, but persistence. Every time you rise again, every time you recommit to your discipline, you are strengthening the foundation of who you are. It is the consistency, not the flawless execution, that creates the unshakable version of yourself. This path demands patience, but patience itself is a form of power. It is the ability to delay gratification, to withstand discomfort, and to trust the process even when results are not yet visible. Patience is not waiting passively. It is the active decision to remain committed no matter how long it takes. It is choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort, refusing to settle for easy when greatness requires endurance. The impatient mind wants quick wins, but the disciplined mind builds victories that last. As you practice this, the world begins to respond differently to you. People sense the steadiness in your presence, the quiet authority in your voice, the calm confidence in your decisions. You no longer need to prove your strength. It radiates naturally. Those around you may not know the battles you fight within, but they will feel the power you carry because you have learned to master yourself first. And once you master yourself, there is nothing outside of you that can overpower you. This is the path to becoming unshakable, not by avoiding storms, but by standing so firm within yourself that no storm can move you. Every trigger becomes an opportunity. Every emotion becomes energy you can harness. Every moment of discipline becomes a brick in the unbreakable foundation of who you are destined to be. Strength is not only measured in how much you can endure, but in how much control you can maintain while enduring it. It is easy to be calm when life is kind, but the real test lies in your ability to remain steady when everything around you shakes. That steadiness is not gifted. It is built through discipline, choice after choice, moment after moment, until it becomes your natural state. When you reach that level of mastery, nothing can break you, because your power no longer depends on circumstances. It is rooted within you, immovable, unshakable. The truth is, the world will never slow down for you. Challenges will not politely wait until you feel ready. Life will demand your strength before you think you have enough of it, and that is why you must build now, in silence, when no one is watching. Every act of self-discipline is a preparation for the storms ahead. The workouts you force yourself to complete, the temptations you resist, the boundaries you hold, all of it is training for the moments that will try to undo you, and when those moments come, you will not crumble, because you already forged the resilience to withstand them. Your mind is the battlefield, and every thought that tries to pull you backward is a test of your loyalty to the person you are becoming. Doubt will whisper, fear will scream, weakness will bargain, but you are stronger than all of them. Each time you choose to act from strength instead of surrendering to weakness, you rewrite your identity. You are not the person who breaks anymore. You are the person who endures, the one who holds steady when everything else gives way. That kind of identity is not built overnight. It is carved from relentless repetition, from the refusal to betray yourself. You must understand that growth demands discomfort. There is no transformation without struggle, no strength without resistance. The pain you feel in the process is not punishment. It is proof that you are stretching beyond your old limits. Too many people run from that discomfort, seeking ease, seeking shortcuts. But ease never builds greatness. You must lean into the weight, because the heavier it feels, the stronger you become from lifting it. The very moments you want to escape are the moments that will define you if you stay. The shift happens when you stop seeing discipline as deprivation and start seeing it as power. It is not about what you deny yourself. It is about what you are creating within yourself. Every time you choose the harder path, you are telling your future that it matters more than your momentary craving. That kind of choice builds a mind that is sharp, a body that is resilient, and a spirit that is unbreakable. When others chase comfort, you chase growth. and that difference sets you apart in ways that cannot be ignored. Soon, you will notice that the strength you build within begins to flow into everything you touch. Your work carries more weight because it is done with discipline. Your relationships deepen because you bring clarity and presence, not chaos and weakness. Your goals become attainable because your mind no longer sabotages you. This is the ripple effect of self-mastery. The stronger you become inside, the stronger your entire life becomes outside. And when the world throws its storms at you, you will not beg for calm. You will be the calm. You will not search for safety. You will be safety. You will not wait for strength. You will be strength. Because everything you need is already within you, and you are finally becoming powerful enough to live from it. True power is not improving yourself to others, but improving yourself to yourself. The moment you stop performing for the world and start performing for your own standard, everything changes. You no longer need applause to validate your effort or approval to confirm your worth. You build silently, you grow consistently, and you rise independently. This is where true confidence is born, not from recognition but from self-respect, not from praise but from discipline. Every time you honor your own commitments, you strengthen the unshakable bond with yourself, and that bond is the foundation of unstoppable growth. The greatest betrayal is not when others doubt you, it is when you doubt yourself by abandoning your potential. Every excuse you make, every time you choose distraction over progress, every time you give in to comfort instead of courage, you weaken the trust you have in yourself. But the opposite is also true. Every time you push through resistance, every time you stay consistent, every time you hold the line when it would be easier to give in, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. That trust is everything, because when you truly trust yourself, there is no room for hesitation, no room for fear, no room for compromise. You must build a standard so high that no external circumstance can drag it down. Decide what kind of person you are, and then live it without negotiation. If you say you are disciplined, then prove it in the dark when no one sees you. If you say you are strong, then prove it when everything in you screams to quit. If you say you are committed, then prove it by showing up again and again without needing results to arrive immediately. The person you become is sculpted in these moments of private integrity, and those moments are the bricks of greatness. The mind will always offer you the easy path, the shortcut, the way out. But every easy path is a lie, because it leads you back to weakness. The difficult path is the only one that holds transformation. Choosing it is never comfortable, but comfort is not the goal. Evolution is. The more you expose yourself to discipline, the less grip weakness has on you. The more you choose sacrifice, the more power you unlock within. It is not suffering that breaks you, it is surrender. And the day you decide that surrender is no longer an option is the day your real life begins. There will be moments where progress feels invisible, where you wonder if all the effort is worth it. That is the exact moment you must push harder, because breakthrough hides behind persistence. Most people give up just before the shift, just before the growth reveals itself, just before the reward arrives. They let impatience rob them of greatness. But not you. You will keep going, not because you see results yet, but because you refuse to betray the standard you've set for yourself. Your consistency is your weapon, and in time, it will carve results so undeniable they cannot be ignored. When you live this way, you become dangerous to weakness. Temptation loses its grip, fear loses its voice, doubt loses its power. Because you have proven to yourself, again and again, that nothing can break the one who refuses to break. That kind of strength cannot be bought, borrowed, or faked. It must be earned through choices made in silence, earned through discipline no one applauds, earned through sacrifice no one else understands. And once it is yours, it can never be taken away. You are no longer at the mercy of the world, you are in control of yourself. And that is the highest form of freedom. Greatness is not the product of what you occasionally do, it is forged in what you consistently refuse to compromise. The person who builds themselves into something unshakable is not the one who only moves when they feel motivated, but the one who acts in alignment with their vision no matter what they feel. Feelings come and go, but standards remain. If you are ruled by moods, you will always be fragile. But if you are ruled by principles, nothing can move you. That is why you must anchor yourself to discipline so deeply that even on the days when your body is tired, your mind is cloudy, and your heart feels heavy, you still move. Those are the days that separate the strong from the weak, the relentless from the ordinary, the disciplined from the distracted. It is not talent that will determine your future. It is not luck. It is not opportunity. It is your ability to keep showing up when excuses scream louder than reason. Most people collapse when things get uncomfortable. But the few who rise in those moments become unstoppable. Every time you resist the temptation to step back, every time you shut the door on laziness, every time you choose progress over procrastination, you are strengthening a muscle inside that no one can see but everyone will eventually feel. That is the muscle of self-mastery. And once it grows, it cannot be broken. Every challenge you face is an invitation to prove who you are becoming. Life will test you. It will put weight on your shoulders. It will throw resistance in your path, not to destroy you, but to see if you are worthy of carrying the future you dream of. The universe does not hand greatness to the unprepared. It demands payment in persistence, sacrifice, and resilience. If you fold under pressure, you declare that you are not ready. If you endure it, if you fight through it, if you rise beneath it, you declare that nothing can stop you. Pain becomes proof. Discipline becomes proof. Consistency becomes proof. You cannot cheat your way to transformation. You cannot half commit and expect full results. You cannot hope for strength while living in weakness. Every step forward requires you to shed the layers of hesitation, to burn away the excuses, to silence the inner voice that tries to convince you to settle. Settling is poison, because it kills the future version of you that could have existed. Every time you choose less than your best, you bury the potential of who you could have become. But every time you push further, every time you demand more of yourself, every time you hold the line when it would be easier to drop it, you breathe life into that greater version of you. This journey will not reward the impatient. Transformation is not a sprint. It is a lifelong war against the old version of you that clings to comfort, fear, and doubt. That version will whisper to you every day, telling you to ease up, to slow down, to give in. But you must be louder. You must drown it out with action, not words. With every repetition, every disciplined decision, every act of resilience, you silence the old self and strengthen the new one. That is the essence of true growth. Not an instant change, but a gradual, relentless reshaping of who you are until weakness no longer feels natural, and strength becomes your identity. When you reach that level, life no longer intimidates you. Obstacles become fuel, setbacks become lessons, pain becomes a weapon, and silence becomes the arena where you sharpen your edge. You no longer move to prove anything to anyone. You move because you refuse to betray yourself. That is the kind of fire that no storm can extinguish, the kind of drive that no failure can break, the kind of power that no one can take. That is who you are capable of becoming if you refuse to quit, if you stay disciplined, if you choose to rise every single day. The truth is, most people spend their entire lives waiting for the right moment, waiting for clarity, waiting for confidence, waiting for a sign that now is the time to act. But the ones who rise above, the ones who create lives of strength, freedom, and power, are the ones who stop waiting and start building. Confidence does not arrive before action. It is built through action. Clarity does not fall into your lap. It is carved through the decisions you make in uncertainty. The right moment never appears. You create it by refusing to stand still. Every second you hesitate, life moves on without you, and the opportunities you could have seized drift away. You must understand that progress is not a gift. It is a demand. It demands you to trade excuses for effort, comfort for courage, hesitation for execution. And every time you step forward, even if the step is small, you are breaking the chains that have held you back. The mind will always search for safety. It will whisper reasons to delay, but growth does not exist in safety. Growth exists in the uncomfortable, the uncertain, the unknown. That is where your strength is forged. You cannot become powerful by walking the same path as everyone else. You cannot stand out by blending in. The very discomfort you avoid is the furnace that shapes you into someone extraordinary. When you realize this, hesitation dies. You stop waiting for permission, and you begin to claim ownership of your life. You stop blaming circumstances, because circumstances do not control destiny, decisions do. You stop comparing yourself to others, because comparison is a distraction that weakens your focus. Instead, you lock in on your own path, your own progress, your own fight, and you give everything you have to it. That is where momentum is born, not in doing everything at once, but in refusing to quit on what you know must be done. Each day you wake up, you are given a choice: to repeat the same patterns that keep you trapped, or to break them and create new ones that push you forward. The repetition of weakness builds weakness, but the repetition of strength builds strength. This is why discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation is temporary, it comes and goes like the weather. But discipline is a decision, a promise to yourself that no matter how you feel, you will not betray the future you are working to build. Every time you choose discipline, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than the pull of distraction. And that proof becomes the fuel that drives you further. It does not matter how far you feel from your goals. What matters is that you are moving toward them. Small steps become great distances when they are taken consistently. Do not underestimate the power of daily commitment. The ordinary actions repeated with extraordinary consistency create results that once felt impossible. That is how transformation happens, not in a single breakthrough moment, but in the accumulation of countless silent victories where you choose progress over surrender. There will be days when it feels like nothing is changing, when the grind feels endless, when the weight feels unbearable. But understand this, those are the days where the transformation is happening the most. Growth is not always visible, strength is not always seen, progress is not always measured in instant results. It is in those invisible battles, in the silence of your private struggle, that your foundation is being rebuilt. You are becoming someone unrecognizable to your old self, someone who no longer bows to fear, someone who no longer hesitates, someone who no longer gives up when it gets hard. That is who you are becoming, and no setback, no obstacle, no delay can stop it if you refuse to quit.